In Gretel and Hansel, a young brother and sister are traveling alone when they happen upon a witch living deep in the woods, who lures them into her home with the promise of food, but secretly has very dark intentions for them, which are also food-related. This film is a retelling of the German fairy tale Hansel and Gretel, and it sticks to the basic story, except this time it's darker, more disturbing, and the girl's name comes first in the title. Because what Hansel and Gretel really needed to become a timeless classic about two children being terrorized by an evil witch who's also a cannibal was to be about feminism. I'm kidding, but only a little bit. The bare bones of the story are still there, but there have been a fair amount of updates to make it conform to current year Hollywood trends, including, but not limited to, promoting Gretel to lead character status instead of her and Hansel being more or less equals. There are also some feminist tropes in there that don't land nearly as well as the filmmakers probably thought they would. Like at the beginning of the film, Gretel is interviewing for a job as a maid, but the guy interviewing her is a lecherous asshole. How original. And after she bails on that situation, it's suggested to Gretel that she should have smiled more during the interview. And the movie kinda lost me at that point. It did manage to get me back somewhat, though, because despite the noticeable feminist slant the movie takes, there are positives here. The cast is very good, it's mostly just the two kids and the witch, but there are no weak links there. Alice Creed as the witch is creepy as all hell, Sophia Lillis does a fine job, even the kid playing Hansel is very good, and he couldn't have been much older than 8 years old. There's also some gorgeous cinematography. There are a lot of shots in this movie that are very unsettling, and that they were able to pull that off with a PG-13 rating, meaning that a lot of the fear has to come from what they don't show, was pretty impressive. I'm also willing to cut the movie a little bit of slack on the feminist angle because, even though it felt unnecessary, they did at least try to tell a good story with it. It's less about the girl power yeah type of stuff, and more about a coming-of-age story for Gretel. And parts of that don't come off too badly, but I think it trips the movie up when the story becomes more about that in an effort to pad the runtime. Hansel and Gretel has been an enduring story for a very long time, but there's not that much to the story, so the filmmakers had to create a whole new aspect to this thing to put more meat on the bones, and the results are mixed because 1, the movie's only 87 minutes long and still felt like it was struggling to get to feature length, and 2, in trying to add more story, the movie kind of becomes something else. There's this brand new subplot about Gretel learning magic from the witch, and they try to tie that into her coming-of-age story, but it kind of comes out of nowhere and doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere either. Not enough for it to make sense to make the story more about that than what it was originally, and by the end of the film I was left thinking that this was not the story I thought they were telling. At some point it just became something much different. There's also some attempts to flesh out the witch's character, and these are a bit hit and miss. The film begins with a prologue that explains her backstory. This part is really good. I thought it was one of the creepiest parts of the movie, and had they stuck to that, I think it would have worked better. But towards the end, there's a twist. And the twist itself is well done, but it ends up hurting the third act a lot because with this revelation, the witch suddenly becomes a lot less frightening. So you've essentially defanged the movie right when the climax starts, which produces a bit of a lackluster conclusion. And it doesn't help that the feminism angle comes back into focus at the very end either. I'm not going to spoil it, but Gretel makes a choice in regards to her brother that I think was intended to be an empowering decision for her, but it's actually a really bad message, considering some other things that happened in the movie, and I did not feel good about it at all. Gretel and Hansel is a mixed bag. It's a well-acted, well-shot, beautiful-looking movie that can be very creepy when it wants to be, and tries to give a darker, more modern, sophisticated take on the fairy tale. And it doesn't do too badly with that a lot of the time. Even its efforts to push Gretel more into the spotlight felt like the filmmakers were doing it for semi-justifiable character-related reasons. But it also feels longer than it really is, the new story elements are clumsily executed, the twist with the witch has the opposite effect I think it was intended to have, and certain aspects of the story being seen through a feminist lens at the beginning and the end are awkwardly shoehorned in and come off like something the movie really could have done without. If you enjoyed this review, please leave a comment down below. Ding that bell icon and follow me on Twitter using the link in the description so you'll always be notified about new videos. F the algorithm by liking, sharing, subscribing, making sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube may have unsubscribed you without you even realizing it, and I'll be back with more very soon. Until then, over, out.